What up, Phoenix? How's it going? All right, now who's excited to learn about what Drake and DJ Khaled can teach you about social media marketing? Let's make some noise. I'm really curious to know, by a show of hands, how many of you have heard that song, the In My Feelings Challenge? All right, good. There's a reason why I go into every single marketing meeting with CMOs now, and there's a reason why I'm here at Digital Summit to talk to you today about this very important topic. Before I get started, it's so great to be back here at Digital Summit. This is my first talk of the year. It's probably the first conference for all of you. We just got started. The brand new season, post-Super Bowl, conference season's in full effect. My name is Carlos Gil. I want to first invite you to add me on social media and follow at Carlos Gil 83 on Twitter as well as on Instagram. You can also shoot me an email if you want a copy of this presentation. My email address is on every single one of the slides. It's carlos@gilmedia.co. Now, welcome to 2019, ladies and gentlemen, where a plain, brandless egg has more influence than any one of us in this room, more influence than Kylie Jenner, and more influence than any single brand. Let that sink in for a moment. We just had Brian Fanzo on the stage talking about Fire Festival, an orange tile. An orange tile generated a company millions. Orange tile, brandless egg. That's the state of marketing today. Pretty shitty, isn't it? When you really stop and think about it. How many of you in this room work for a brand? A lot of you. How many of you work for an agency? A lot of you. The struggle that we face every single day, and I know this for a fact, because as you saw in the previous slide, I've worked for brands running social media, companies like Winn-Dixie, Save Lot, LinkedIn, and BMC Software before starting up my own company in Gil Media Co. 2 years ago. The issue that we all face here, whether you're in the brand side or agency side, is all the same. How do you stay relevant in a noisy digital ecosystem? And guess what? It's not easy. It's hard. And what I hope to accomplish over the next 30 minutes that I'm here with all of you is to get you to start thinking about your mindset shift. Marketing is no longer about logos. It's no longer about brands. It's no longer about services or products. It's about people. People buy from people. People believe in people. That's why Fire Festival, as you just heard, took off in the way it did before it flopped, because we trust what other people are telling us. Now, who woke up this morning, and be very, very honest, by a show of hands, who woke up this morning and the first thing that you did was you grabbed your iPhone and you went to Facebook to see what your favorite brand of all time posted? Look around. Are you surprised? Not one person. Not one person at all. I have this conversation with marketers all the time. We as marketers don't eat our own dog food. We expect customers to be excited when our latest campaign drops. We expect customers to be thrilled and go over the moon when they see our latest Facebook ad. But we as marketers and as business operators aren't operating like we expect our consumers to operate. Which brings us to the state of social media today, which is, where are adults spending their time on social media? You know, I get asked this question all the time, every single day. Carlos, is Facebook going away? Is Facebook gonna die? We hear about Cambridge Analytica. We hear about all the issues that Facebook's having with data privacy concerns and its users falling off. Ladies and gentlemen, Facebook's one of the most powerful companies in the entire world. You can't see the market share, the breakdown of where adults are spending their time on social media, and then you take a look at Facebook, which owns the lion's share of digital attention and user base today. Whether it's using Facebook, whether it's using WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, you can't get away from Big Blue whatsoever. And then you see, where are the most active social networks? Where are people truly spending their time? And that's not on Snapchat. It's not on Twitter, it's not on LinkedIn, it's on Instagram. So I put these stats up here for a reason, because it's important for you to use the data to your advantage. When you're going back and you're having conversations with your CMO and you're asking for more budget or more resources, or on the agency side when you're working with your clients and you're trying to convince them to give you budget to do an influencer marketing campaign, you need to show them, here's real data of where people are spending their time online today. Now the reality is, this is your audience on Facebook. And this should be no surprise. To anyone in this room that's in charge of managing social media for a brand, this slide should be no surprise whatsoever. I see every single day, and you're gonna see it in this presentation, brands struggling with getting reach of almost any kind significantly on Facebook. In fact, for most brand pages, including influencers and creators, you see less than 1% organic reach on Facebook. However, I often like to say to marketers, don't be mad at Facebook that you suck at marketing. Because the name of the game here isn't, what can Facebook do for me? It's, what are you doing for Facebook? And what can you get the most out of these platforms by working within the infrastructure? Which is why, professionally speaking, I take time to come to conferences like this, to teach others about how social media marketing is done today. And once again, it should be no surprise to any one of us. People don't want to be sold to because guess what? When I asked you before, who goes on social media in the morning to see what your favorite brand posted? No hands went up. I was having this conversation last night at dinner with a good friend of mine who also happens to be a speaker at this conference. And I said, you know, I follow as a consumer 0 brands, 0. As a professional, I have accounts set up to follow what my clients do and what other brands do. As a consumer, I follow 0 brands because I use social media to engage and interact with people. And I think it's important that as marketing professionals, we take a step back from how we're perceived as brands and we start thinking through how is it that we should be engaging our audiences out there versus than selling to them and advertising to them. Because you see the slide up here, your brand is stranded in a digital ocean. What I mean by that is that today's digital ecosystem is extremely noisy. Who in this room is on Facebook out of curiosity? Almost every single one of you. Is there a person in this room who's not on social media of any kind? Not a single person. So we are all part of this noisy digital ecosystem. There's brands, there's creators, there's people, there's professionals, there's kids, you name it. So how do you possibly stand out? That's what I'm here to share with you. What are the major keys to social media success in 2019? And look, this isn't just some catchy tagline because I wanted all of you to sit here in my talk today. I've taken the time to study what DJ Khaled and Drake and all these other celebrities are doing on social media. And you know what? We're all capable of doing the same thing. The only difference between us and them is they make more money than us and they're popular. But we all have influence. Every single person in this room has influence. Every person in your organization has influence of some kind. Now, how you scale that influence is a different story. Before I get started, before I go to this video with Shiggy, many of you have heard of the Shiggy Challenge. For those of you that haven't, I'm about to share with you a video that took the summer of 2018 by storm. Take a look. That video right there that you see, the My Feelings Challenge, or the Shiggy Challenge as it became known as, to date has generated over 7.3 million views on Instagram. I would argue that your average brand doesn't get 7.3 million views on Instagram when you post a video. Correct. This song that was created by Drake to date has generated 180 million views on YouTube alone. Now, let me explain to those of you that either followed the Shiggy Challenge or aren't familiar necessarily with the Shiggy Challenge why this became popular. And you're going to see a trend throughout this presentation. It was a movement. How many of you saw people jumping out of cars doing the Shiggy Challenge? I know I did. I know I actually contemplated to do the Shiggy Challenge to show my social media followers me jumping out of a car and doing this because it's cool, right? I know my creative director here, Luke Creative, did it. He did a really good job at it. I know a lot of my followers were doing it too because it was a movement. So as a marketer, what can you learn about that? People don't want to be advertised. They want to be a part of movements. You know what's a movement? Instagram. Are you guys Instagram fans? I want you guys to be a part of a movement right now so my community can see what's going down here in Phoenix. Is that cool? All right, so on 3, I want you guys to all say, "What up, Brand Fam?" Can you do that? All right, 1, 2, 3. That's a movement right there. But why can't brands do that? Why do they struggle with the basics? Is it because we're always pressured that we have a KPI to meet? Because we have some sort of metric that we have to meet? The first key to success is you gotta be real. You gotta be real with the content that you're posting. People see through BS. You know, my two oldest kids are 13 and 10, and they each have iPhones, as scary as that is for me as a millennial that grew up in the days of AOL. And my kids are on Reddit and TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram. And they're consuming all this content. And I asked them, Carlos and Gabby, what brands do you follow? And they're like, well, what's a brand, Dad? Like, do you see ads in your content? They're like, well, what's an ad? So I'm like, all right, give me your phone for a moment. And then I go over on Twitch, which my son is on all the time, and I'm seeing influencers that are representing different brands. Subliminally, they're marketing to kids. That's a form of advertisement. That's not a logo. That's not a product. It's not a service. It's a person that's promoting that brand, that product, that service. So my first tip to you is, once again, you have to be real with your content. An example of that is DJ Khaled. DJ Khaled today, friends, is one of the most watched people on the internet. He's not the best looking person. He's not the best spoken person. He's not. But he's one of the most watched people because he does stuff like this.
Direct across the big applause, we go berserk, alright? Something fine. Everywhere I go, that's something fine.
DJ Khaled's real. He's a celebrity. Your CEOs can do this. You guys can all do this in your offices. You don't. You choose not to. But we all have access to the same technology. That's my point here. We all have the same access to the technology that DJ Khaled uses, that the Kardashians use, that Tai Lopez uses, that Gary Vee uses. We all have access to all those tools. Now in the case of DJ Khaled, guess what? Now he has brands that are aligning with DJ Khaled because they see that he's achieved this critical mass through storytelling. So you have Silk Milk, which DJ Khaled endorses, so you can live a healthier life. Then he has Shay's Cocoa Butter, so you can have healthier skin. Then he endorses TurboTax, so he teaches you how to manage your finances. And then he endorses Ciroc, so he's teaching you what to drink once you do your taxes. You see how that all works? Today's consumer, friends, isn't learning about your brand because your brand is selling to them that you're a Fortune 500 company, or that you have all these offices and all these locations and all these people buy from you. Where are those people? You know, a lot of times when I'm doing research on my own clients, I'm looking at the copy on their About Us page on their website, and they always tout these big numbers, right? Most businesses are always touting these big numbers. We have thousands of clients. We have thousands of satisfied customers. Who are those customers? Do they have a face? Do they have a name? Do they have a story? Are they accessible on Twitter? Can I connect with them on Facebook? Is there a group where they're telling me how to use your products and services? Because the reality is that today's consumer is learning about goods, products, and services, not through the brands, but they're learning from friends, they're learning from influencers, and they're learning from celebrities like I just showed you, DJ Khaled. So when I put this slide, just want you to know, full transparency, in front of a C-level executive, they honestly think I'm batshit crazy when I say this to them. But I will tell you what I tell them: every brand must be more like DJ Khaled and less like a brand. Because if you continue to operate with the same tactics that you've been implementing for the last decade on social media, it's not gonna cut it. Your brand's gonna get phased out. These social networks aren't going away. And it's not gonna get any easier to create critical mass and relevance on these platforms. It's just not. There's more people getting on. For every time I see how my own kids use social media, I think, wow, at their middle school, there's thousands of kids just like them that will soon be creating content on social media, thus making my job as a YouTuber or content creator that much more difficult. Now, showing how a brand has leveraged social media to their advantage and making people the face of the brands is Takis. You go on YouTube right now and you look up a Takis challenge video. These videos, for the most part, have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. Again, going back to challenges, it's not hard to create a challenge around your brand. But yet you go to Takis' Instagram account. Does this look fun to you? Does this look like something you want to engage with? I know it doesn't to me. It looks like this is content that an ad agency created on Canva. They slapped a purple background, some product images on there, and then they said, hey, brand manager, you've got some content for your Instagram account. How many of you heard of the Tide Pod Challenge? A couple of you? Did Tide Pod Challenge get banned here in Arizona? All right, so since most of you don't know what it is, last year, I think the year before, people thought it would be cool to eat Tide Pods. Sounds like a bad idea, I know. But guess what was happening? As people were doing this Tide Pod Challenge, they were putting this content on Instagram, they were putting it on YouTube to the tune of millions of views, as you see behind me. Tide sales went through the roof. The lawsuits also followed, but their sales went through the roof. They were relevant. And then here's how Tide comes back and combats that. Man, big swing and a miss. They create their own challenge called the Quick and Cold Challenge. Tide has almost 4 million likes on Facebook. They got 24 comments? You have 4 million likes on Facebook and you get 24 comments? Why? Because now you're going against the grain. You're not listening to your consumer. You're not embracing the obvious, which is people want to use your product in a fun and humorous way. Instead, you want to be corporate, and this is the result. The next key to success is, do you love your customers? You don't have to answer this publicly, but think internally. Do you really like the people that you're trying to sell to? And what I mean by this is, are you engaging with them on social media? Are you listening to what they're saying? When they write to you, are you writing back? When they post a selfie at your location, are you regramming that, retweeting it, acknowledging them? Because one of the worst things as a customer today is to reach out to a brand and be heard. And an example of that is Walmart. Walmart's another brand that has over 35 million likes on Facebook today. You know how many people check in on a Foursquare or Swarm every single day at Walmart? We see the Yelp booth out here. People are checking in on Yelp. They're leaving reviews. Is Walmart engaging with any of those people? No. And then you look a little closer at what's underneath the hood, and at 35 million likes, when they drop their Black Friday ad, Walmart has less than 1,000 people engaging or liking this post. At 35 million people. That's not good. So I ask all of you, do you want to be more like Drake or do you want to be Walmart? Think about this for a moment. Do you want to be the giant in your industry that no one talks about, or do you want to be the brand that people are excited to share about, to talk about? And you're probably asking yourself in your head, well, like, how do I be both? And it starts with using social media as the asset that it truly is. Look, when social media was invented, I know this because I used to work for a social network. Social and LinkedIn. Social networks are ad platforms. That's why they were created. They weren't created for brands to get rich off of social media. They were created for social networks to bring people in to socialize, so then the social networks themselves could sell ads to brands to then reach the people. So if you think you're going to grow this business for free off Facebook, it's not happening. You have to create content that people find fun, engaging, entertaining, inspiring. If you want to see what I'm talking about, go to BuzzFeed on Facebook. You have to create content that people want to share with their friends. And if you're not creating it, go out and hire someone who will. And who do you hire? You listen. Who are the people that are buying from your brand? They're not influencers. They're everyday people. I'll use an example. When I ran social media for Winn-Dixie back in 2012, we see social media to pay attention to who are the moms that were going on Twitter to talk about our brand when they'd come home from a shopping trip and they'd show their entire haul, either on Twitter or on our Facebook page. Those are the real influencers for your brand. The people who are buying, the people who are endorsing. Get more of them together, and what you'll do is you'll achieve critical mass. Yeah, I'll share with you an example. I've got a client that has about 30 million likes on Facebook. On average, in about the course of a month, they get about 300 actual organic engagements, which sounds like a really bad number. But when I say to them, if you take those 300 people and you put them in an entire room right here, you can't personally touch 300 people even in an hour. That's a lot of people. Those people have a pocketbook, they have a credit card, and they have a pulse. Those 300 people, you need to multiply. You need to get into know who their friends are. You need to get them to share your content actively, because that's how this game is going to continue to work over and over. Now, the next is switching from influencers over to advocates. I heard Brian say before, very true statement, every one of us at the companies that we work for are influencers, but we're known as employees, and employee advocacy is a real thing. When you look on Starbucks right now, when you run a search on YouTube and you type in Starbucks employees or Starbucks barista, you find dozens, if not hundreds of videos posted from employees at Starbucks. And do you want to see what happens when you ignore your customers and you don't encourage them to speak on behalf of your brand? This.
I have never been so stressed out in my entire life.
This guy is losing it, and you won't believe why.
I have never made so many frappuccinos in my entire life.
Brady Person is a Starbucks barista in Colorado, and he's had a rough day making dozens of the new and wildly popular unicorn frappuccino drink.
We all have the power in our hands. Every single one of us. We all have the power in our hands to pull out an iPhone and to document. And hopefully you are. Hopefully you work for an organization that is empowering you and encouraging you to share content on social media. Because going back to what I said before, people are tuning out the brands, but they're tuning in from what their friends are saying. Endorsements are powerful. Recommendations are real. So if you work for an organization that's struggling right now to gain relevancy on social media, you need to go to your managers as soon as you leave this conference and say, we need an employee advocacy strategy like yesterday. Here's the next point.
You used to call me on my
Hotline bling. Who's paying attention, and think about this for a moment, who's paying attention to what's being said about their brand and their competition online? Think through that for a moment and write this down, because this is what I'm about to share with you is pretty gangster. I'm a big Cole Haan fan, so I use this example. If you go on Instagram right now and you look up hashtag #IWearColeHaan, there are over 400 posts on Instagram right now. Not one of them's posted from Cole Haan. And guess what? Cole Haan hasn't engaged with not one of them. Not one. That's a fail. That is a fail. You can go on Instagram right now and you can type in hashtag your company, hashtag your competition, hashtag the products that you sell. If you sell life insurance, like let's pretend for a moment that you work in life insurance sales. Type in hashtag life insurance and see what people are posting. If you're not swooping in to those opportunities, you're missing the value of social media. Again, what most brands are doing is they're just spitting out content to see what sticks. That's not social media. That's just spitting out noise. Creating real media is when you embrace the fact that there are people spending money on your products and then they're sharing a pair of shoes, in this case, with their friends for free. You didn't pay for that. Spend more time listening to what's being said about your brand and your competition than actually posting content. My next point is, be a savage. Be savage AF. Like my boy, the macho man, Randy Savage, for those of you that are pro wrestling fans from back in the day. And what I mean by being a savage is social media is the wild, wild west. There's no rules here. None. At all. I'll repeat that. There's a lot of gurus, there's a lot of thought leaders that are telling you how to do these things, but there's not like a code of conduct or a playbook that you need to follow. So before I show you this next example of a brand that I think is killing it, going back to when I was at Winn-Dixie, we would get crushed by Publix, by Walmart, by Target, when it came to groceries, because it's a supermarket chain. So I used to say to our CMO, Mary, why don't we start using social media, Twitter specifically, to see who's checking in at Publix and Walmart, and we swoop in and we give them a coupon over in the DM. Why don't we go on Publix's Facebook page and we start commenting as Winn-Dixie on every single one of their comments? Because I can tell you for a fact that the 4 or 5 people on their social media team aren't even paying attention, because if you just look at the history, they're not even engaging with anyone's comments. So let's do that. And she said, you know what? We don't want to poke the bear, Carlos. Let's just let him be. I'll tell you a brand that is poking the bear, and that's Wendy's. Wendy's is savage AF. Man, hats off, mazel tov to the people that run social media because they get it. Wendy's is so savage that if you're not following them, you need to drop what you're doing after this talk and go follow them on Twitter, please. Last year, when IHOP, International House of Pancakes, changed their name to International House of Burgers to become IHOB, what did Wendy's do? They went on Twitter and they stole the conversation, brought it back over to them and tweet out, "Can't wait to try a burger from the place that decided pancakes were too hard." Ouch. Would any of your brands ever do this to your competition? Probably not. I don't know most brands that do. Because I've had this conversation with many of my marketing homies, and they're like, "Oh no, like that's Wendy's, but we can't do that." Well, why not? It's the Wild Wild West, people. These are real buyers. These are real people that have a pulse. Go after them. What do you have to lose? Look, as I look to wrap it up here, you can't build a mansion on rented land. That's the point of all this. Everything that we do right now is for right now. That's the truth. That's real talk. You don't own Facebook. You don't own a single follower. You don't own a single like. You know, I spent the last decade of my career in this industry building up a personal brand. I don't own any of this. But I tell you what you do own. You own data. You own those credit card swipes in your store or on your .com. That's what you own. So keep this in mind as you see new tools come out, as you start thinking, should we be going all in on this? Should we be cutting back on Facebook? As long as you're able to reach your target demographic, you absolutely should have a presence on the platforms where your customers are. However, you should also be seeing how can we get conversations off of social media as quick as possible and get people to go through our funnel, get them to go through our website, get them to sign up for our loyalty program, get them to opt into our email address, get their phone number, because these social networks will continue through the algorithms, make it much more difficult in order to reach your customers. So I'm gonna leave you all on this note. All of us in this room are marketers. We all are. A marketer is no longer a person who sits in a cubicle at all. That's what a marketer used to be. All of you in this room, you are all a brand. Thank you.